At the Brooklyn Visions Academy, Miles is talking to his new roommate, Fabio. As a mutant, he goes by the name Goldballs, and wanting to welcome the young man to the school, Genki told Fabio about Miles being Spider-Man. This has infuriated Morales, which Goldballs understands. When the mutant went public himself, he was nearly killed, so he promises not to tell anyone about Miles and his secret identity. Fabio tries to be consoling, saying that Genki feels terrible about letting Miles' secret slip, but Miles is having trouble getting used to all these changes. Unseen by both men, they are being watched. The principal catches the observer and demands an explanation. She gets nothing, and the stranger drives off without saying a word. It turns out this woman is a private investigator hired by Miles' grandmother, who is worried about the young man's failing grades. Miles' parents, Rio and Jefferson, not at all comfortable about this, feel like they are betraying their son. Rio knows nothing good can result from hiring a private eye behind their son's back. Jefferson says nothing, but seeing Nova fly by, knows his wife is right. Later, Miles has cooled down a bit when Genki comes by, though he is still annoyed with what his friend did. They try to push past things, instead talking about a girl Genki likes, until Miles gets a call from Tony Stark. He suits up and takes off, wondering how long it'll take before the Avengers stuff stops scaring the crap out of him. He tries to psych himself up for it, but, well, there's nothing quite like Iron Man. Tony greets the young hero and asks where Miles stands on the precognitive Inhuman. Miles hasn't given it much thought one way or another. Tony says he's going to have to. Things are coming to a head. Captain Marvel wants to use this kid for good, but for what good? Tony's biggest concerns are about Ulysses and his powers. The kid can see the future, but the future hasn't happened yet. It has to be an interpretation of the future, the way he sees it. To Stark, it's a form of profiling. Not racial, obviously, but if you're arresting somebody for doing something they haven't done yet, by definition, that's profiling. If Banner was viewed as dangerous, well, is it really a surprise what happened when you look at it this way? Tony can tell a war is coming. He'd love to be wrong, but he's smart. He can see what is happening here. Both him and Carol are determined and have faith in their side of the fight. Things are heading towards conflict, no matter what happens. Stark asks if Miles is willing to side with him, but only if he sees things his way. He only wants the kid's help if he understands what he is doing and accepts it. Miles then asks a pointed question. Is Tony using the word profiling because he knows Miles is not white? Stark replies no, that this is the only word he can think of to describe what is happening here. Miles explains that it's a big issue in his home. His dad has had problems with this in the past. Stark, having been rich and white his entire life, can only imagine. Miles agrees to think on it, which Tony understands, and Spider-Man thanks his friend for taking the time to contact him. It's a shame though. Stark admits he was hoping the boy would show him something he hadn't thought of. Perhaps a less cynical view of the world. The next day, Miles has a talk with his dad about the Inhuman. Jefferson mentions how he was arrested twice for something he didn't do, each time quietly let go after the fact, which Miles says he alluded to in his conversation with Tony. This is new ground for the father, as his son has never come to him with a superhero dilemma before. It's new territory for them both, actually, as Miles has never really had a dilemma like this before. Jefferson asks what his son thinks, and Miles says that Tony is way smarter than he is. He thinks Stark is right, but doesn't really want to get into a fight over it. His father says sometimes you have to fight for the right thing. He's also certain that Miles' mother and grandmother would have very different things to say about all of this. Eventually, Miles is going to have to tell them the truth, and the longer he waits, the harder it's going to be. At Alias Investigative Services, Rio asks Jessica Jones to call off the investigation on her son. Jones says she can only do so if Rio's mother, the person who hired her, gives the word. Rio offers to pay the woman quite a bit of money, which amuses Jones, saying nobody's ever actually tried that before, but she still refuses as a matter of professional reputation. She apologizes, but Rio says it's not like the detective is going to find anything anyways. A look betrays Jessica's face, and Rio realizes she did find something. Rio begins to panic, and Jessica promises Miles is a good kid, but the mother won't let up. She begins to cry, and demands the woman tell her son's secret. Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and this is my recap and review of Spider-Man number 6. So here we have my latest Civil War II tie-in to cover, and it's a pretty fun one. It's been a while since we've checked in on Miles. He's made a nice home for himself in the Prime Universe. His mom is back to life thanks to the Molecule Man, he's made some new friends, and he's even an inventor now. Spider-Man has been a fun series ever since it started post-Secret Wars, and I've been personally enjoying it, but I haven't had a chance to talk about it here on the channel yet. I like this issue for the most part. It starts out slow to the point that I just want to slap Marvel across the head and just say, will you get on with this stupid fight already? It's been nothing but weeks of build-up with this Civil War II stuff. But then Tony shows up and things start clicking for me. This profiling business is quite an interesting take on events so far, especially considering the comic is written by Bendis, who is handling the main story of Civil War II as well. I don't know if this is the direction the core series is taking, but if Bendis did manage to sneak in this little political message in an ostensibly personal story like Civil War II, well, good for him. I was all for a non-political or at least politically neutral story, but this is pretty clever and interesting. Oh, I'm sure the usual shrill corners of the internet will gnash their teeth and stomp their boots, but yeah, I think this profiling angle is pretty clever and well done. It adds a lot to everything that happened to Bruce Banner, and I like the ideas behind it. Even if they are only being explored here, it's a cool discussion. Banner would be looked at like a violent, dangerous threat, so maybe Ulysses Powers, or the Inhuman himself, profiled Banner as such. Hawkeye in turn may have been on edge and acted when he didn't need to. Given the current political climate in the US, that's quite a little bit of pointed nuance to sneak into your story. So I like this comic and recommend it. Though that being said, it's a bit hard to get a handle on this unless you've been reading the series, so I do suggest you go through the Spider-Man issues that have come out so far. But it is worth it. Not only are some great ideas explored here, and some fascinating little hints are dropped of what might be coming, but there's some pretty interesting drama too. I'm curious to see what happens with Miles and his mom. Is she going to find out about him being Spider-Man? And when she eventually does find out about Miles, what's her reaction going to be? We'll have to find out next time. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.